Discussing today Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 17th verse. Sahasrayuga paryantam ahar yad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasran tam te aho ratra vido janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is called Attaining the Supreme, where the Lord is talking about how a person actually can elevate himself, and he talks about different ways in which a person can actually reach to the ultimate destination, and he also talks about which is that ultimate destination. How he talks about Omkara, the impersonal feature of the Lord, and those who come to that point, how they can actually go to the impersonal spiritual side of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above that, if someone is able to visualize and worship the personality of Godhead, not specifically Krishna, but his expansions, then they go to those planetary systems within the spiritual world governed by this form of that Lord. And those who actually worship him in person as Krishna, then they go to the highest planetary spiritual planet, which is Goloka Vrindavan. He talks about all of that. And then he says, one who gets there, he never returns back. That that is the ultimate. Beyond that, there is no, that like in metro we say, right, this is the last station. After that, there's nothing to go. So like that, when you go to that Goloka Vrindavan, beyond that, there's nothing. And that's the best and the topmost place. He's talking about that. Then in that series of verses, this one is coming. Now it is talking about the of this material world, and then particularly here it talks about the day of Brahma, who's the, if you can call the father of the mankind in one sense, like Brahma, not in one sense, Brahma is the first created human, the most intelligent person, and subsequently further creations are being delegated to him, and he is creating. So here it talks about his lifespan. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night, which means here Prabhupada goes on to give the actual number of years that we can, that Lord Brahma has, and this is mind-boggling. So Brahma's life, as we maybe all know, that we classify the period into four: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and finally Kali Yuga. So these are four yugas. Right now we are in the Kali Yuga. So this Kali Yuga, as per the scriptures, is actually 432,000 years. So now, if you keep measuring these four yugas, see, the way you calculate is Kali Yuga, if you remember correctly, then the other yugas you can actually arrive at. So Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, you remember this. Now you multiply by that 2, Kali Yuga into 2 times. So that will be 8,64,000, right? So that will be Dwapara Yuga. That will be Dwapara Yuga. That means the Yuga before the Kali Yuga. That is the age in which Lord Krishna was there, and then he left just as the Kali Yuga started. So right now we have passed 5,000 years into Kali Yuga. So out of that 432,000, 5,000 has already passed. So now Dwapara Yuga, 432 into 2, that we have seen. Then the Treta Yuga, that is the, I'm coming from the bottom. From the bottom, the third one is Treta Yuga. So that one is actually 432 into 3, that you can calculate. I think that will come to 12,96,000. right? That means one more 432 you add to the Dwapara Yuga. Then it becomes 12,96,000, and that becomes the Treta Yuga's period. And then there is the Satya Yuga, which is the first Yuga. From the top, it is the first one, Satya Yuga. And that lasts 432 into 4. That means it is 1728,000. So easy to remember. 432 into 1 is Kali Yuga, 432 into 2 is Dwapara Yuga, 432 into 3 is Treta Yuga, and 432 into 4 is Satya Yuga. So all of these put together, these four, that means 432 into 10 will be the overall for all these four put together. Now this is just one cycle of the 4 yugas. And 1,000 of these cycles are considered as one kalpa. So just imagine this 432 into 10 into 1,000. That is actually one day of Lord Brahma. And similarly is one night of Brahma. So this calculation, if you keep going, that same amount is also his night. So this is day and night of Brahma. Now that, like that, Brahma has 7 days in a week. So that into 7. And if you go further, every month is there, that is 30 days. So I don't know if there's 30 and 31 like we have in the calendar, or it is simply 30 days every month, whatever it is. So that 30 days in a month, and then 12 months in the year. Like this, Brahma lives 100 years. So I don't know how you can, literally even calculate the total number of years. And Prabhupada has given it somewhere here, this thing, so many trillion years. 311 trillion and 40 billion years, if you calculate like how I said, keeping this 432 as the base and keep going, given this calculation, it is 311 trillion and 40 billion earth years is what Brahma's life is. So now Prabhupada is also giving the characteristics of each of these yuga in this period. So when we talk about 1,000 cycles make one kalpa, but within each kalpa there are 1,000 cycles, and in one cycles there are this 4 yuga. So then what are the characteristics of the 4 yuga? So the first yuga, the Satya Yuga, which is the longest, that means Kali into 4. That period is supposed to be the most best period in terms of how life is on earth. So Prabhupada talks about that, this is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion, there being practically no ignorance and vice. That means virtue, wisdom, intelligence, everything is there, but there's very little ignorance and very little vice like that. Because when you come to material world, you cannot be without ignorance. You cannot be with, mainly, ignorance. Mainly ignorance, because of that only we have come out here into this material world. So you need to have some ignorance that, thinking I am the body, I am not the soul. So therefore we think I am the body and come over here and try to lord it over material nature, thinking I am the lord of everything. So that characteristics is will be there in all the 4 yugas, but it will be very, very, very minimal in the Satya Yuga. So that means in that time it is very favorable for understanding all the problems. Just like when you get sickness, if the initial stage of that sickness will be light, right? It will not be so bad that we may have to be put in ICU immediately. So if you are addressing the problem then and there, then you don't have to suffer a lot. So Satya Yuga is like that, a time when you are not so corrupt. Your consciousness is more or less clear. You have good wisdom, you have good virtue. And at that point in time, if you take up a devotional life, you can actually mend our mistakes and we can go back to Godhead. But a lot of souls invariably could not actually utilize that opportunity. So they keep taking birth after birth after birth. And then even if they could not complete their material existence in the Satya Yuga, they come to the next Yuga, which is the Treta Yuga. So in the Treta Yuga, all these characteristics I mentioned, they keep dwindling. Right, as time goes by, the good qualities keep fading away, because you means you and me, all of us have been sort of getting more and more acclimatized to this material world because of our many janmas in the Satya Yuga, which is 28,000 years. So how many times we would have born? So we would have been actually more acclimatized to this material world, and therefore that consciousness of more, that ignorance becomes more because of continuous living in this kind of a mood, in this kind of a lifestyle of thinking I am the body and trying to lord over material nature. We become more and more covered with ignorance, and then the vice becomes even more. That is in that second stage. A vice is introduced, and in this yuga, vice is introduced into this. So vice will further, take us for further and further degradation. So people live in that Treta Yuga for so many years. But even then they can't go back to Godhead. Then there comes the Dwapara Yuga. And in the Dwapara Yuga, then there are more problems introduced. Just like, when you, the challenging, like sometimes this chess and all when you play, first they will introduce a simple level. You play in that one. And then if you are very confident, if you are doing, then level 2 will be very difficult to play. Third level will be difficult like that. So as it goes, it becomes more and more difficult with all the anarthas around us. So this third stage where more vice will increase even further, and even the religious and all those things will keep declining. So that is progressively all these vices, this irreligion, all this will come. And finally, when we come to this Kali Yuga, where we are living this last 432,000 years, where actually everything will literally be zero. Everything may be there little, very little. Just like in the first stage, ignorance was very little. Now the intelligence, the virtue, all that will be very little. Ignorance will be very much, irreligion will be very much like this. So this is going on, and at the end of this Kali Yuga, the Lord himself has to come because people have completely lost it. There is no way they can be corrected. It comes to a major disease where an operation has to be performed. Therefore, the Lord comes and cuts through everything and finishes the whole stuff. And then a recreation starts, and that is again coming back into Satya Yuga, where people come back with a little more senses. So this is going on till we actually come to the full realization that this place, material world, consisting of this 14 planetary system, of which the Loka of Brahma is the topmost, where Satya Loka, that is called our Brahma Loka, that is the topmost. But the point here is, even this Brahma, who has so many 311 trillion and 40 billion years, he will also have to give up his body at some point in time. So we need to come to that realization and realize that this place where we are living is Ashashvatam and Dukkhalayam. That was also mentioned in a couple of verses before, that this place is full of miseries and also non-permanent. Given this situation, including for Brahma, if that is the state, who are we? Therefore, the idea should be that, okay, I need to make best use of the bad bargain that I have. Kali Yuga may be a bad time to be in, having described all the characteristics of all the yugas, and we are in the worst yuga. But still, it is mentioned in the Kali Yuga, we have the best opportunity to go back. That is another somewhere else. It's given in the Bhagavatam that because in Kali Yuga, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, you are actually allowed to go back to Godhead. Simply following the 4 regulative principles, following the chanting of the 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we have been given this ticket to go back to Godhead. So we have to use this time and go back to Godhead. So that is something which we can learn through this particular verse. And what happens to Brahma at the end of this life? 1,000 years. We talked about this 100 years. So what happens to Brahma after that? So as I said, everyone has to die in all of these 14 planetary systems. Everyone has to die, right from Brahma to the Indrakupa, that is the smallest of living being. Everybody has to die. But Brahma, since he is directly engaged in the service of the Lord, so when he gives up this body, he is liberated. But that is not the case for every living entity. They may have to take birth in the next yuga or whatever, in the next Janma, and then go on like this in the 4 cycles, and further into this 1001 kalpa, and further into the next kalpa. Like this, we have to keep on going till we come to this point of self-realization. But Brahma, of course, will be liberated, and all those people who are pious and all that will keep upgrading to the higher planetary system. But still, they will also have to die at some point in time. So all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka will also have to be giving up this body at some point in time, including Brahma. And Brahma, of course, being there in that place, they may get liberation. Brahma will certainly get liberation. So this is the purport that Prabhupada has given for this verse. Hare Krishna. I'll conclude here. If there are any questions, any comments, welcome.